Good afternoon, folks. Now, discussion B deals with United Kingdom's debate over their assisted dying policies and bill. Okay, so we're going to discuss that for B. So please join me for today's discussion B. Here we go. The title: Fix the Care System Before We Debate Assisted Dying. Okay, here you go, guys. The UK is rushing toward a national debate on assisted dying while ignoring the crisis unfolding in plain sight. Our care system is failing, not wobbling, not strained, failing. And until we confront that reality with the seriousness it demands any conversation about, assisted dying is not just premature, it is dangerous. The Prime Minister is right to insist on sequencing, but the urgency of his message has not yet penetrated the public debate. We cannot legislate on how people may choose to die when we have not yet proven we can care for how they live. A system that is failing people in their most vulnerable moments. Every week, families across the UK are forced into impossible situations because the care system cannot meet even basic needs. Home care visits missed, hospice beds unavailable, dementia services stretched to breaking. Palliative consultants delayed until suffering becomes intolerable. These are not bureaucratic inconveniences, they are failures that shape the final months of people's lives. They are failures that make suffering feel inevitable. They are failures that push families to the edge of despair. And that landscape, the idea of assisted dying becomes distorted when care collapses. Choice becomes a euphemism for desperation. We cannot pretend autonomy exists where alternatives don't. Autonomy is not philosophical, abstraction. It is a lived reality that requires real alternatives. A person cannot meaningfully choose assisted dying if they cannot access reliable symptom control, dementia care expertise, home based support, hospice services, respite for exhausted caregivers. Without these, assisted dying risks becoming the path of least suffering, not because it is freely chosen, but because every other path has been neglected. It is not autonomy, it is coercion by system failure. Safeguards are impossible in a system that cannot meet today's demands. Assisted dying legislation depends on careful assessments, multidisciplinary review, and time for reflection. But clinicians in an overstretched NHS do not have time. They are already forced to triage suffering, delay consults, and navigate overwhelming caseloads. To pretend that this same system can reliably implement the safeguards required for assisted dying is wishful thinking. Safeguards are not magic words written into law, they are processes carried out by real people in real time. And right now, those people are drowning. The hard truth: legalizing assisted dying before fixing care would put vulnerable people at risk. We must say this plainly. If Parliament legislators assisted dying before repairing the care system, vulnerable people will be exposed to harm, not theoretical harm, not hypothetical harm, real harm. People will choose assisted dying because they cannot access the care they need. Families will feel pressured because they cannot afford support. Clinicians will be asked to make irreversible decisions in a system that cannot guarantee the time or resources to do so safely. This is not a slippery slope argument. It is a description of the system we have right now. The path forward requires courage, not convenience. Fixing the care system is not optional, it is the ethical foundation for any future debate. That means workforce expansion on a scale that matches the demographic reality of any aging nation. Integrated care reform that eliminates fragmentation and forces accountability. Dementia care investment. Commensurates with the commiserate with the fastest growing clinical need in the country. Universal access to palliative care as a non negotiable right, not a postcode lottery. These are not aspirational goals, they are prerequisites. A call to Parliament. Do not legislate over a broken system. The UK cannot afford moral shortcuts. Legislating assisted dying before fixing care would be a profound abdication of responsibility. It would be a signal. It would signal that the state is willing to offer a medical exit before offering the support that makes living bearable. We must repair the system first, fully, visibly, and with measurable accountability. Only then can we debate assisted dying with integrity. Anything less would betray the very people the law is meant to protect. Okay. Second half, guys. Fix the system, fix the care system before we debate assisted dying. Narrative op-ed. The UK is sleepwalking into a national conversation about assisted dying while the care system is collapsing beneath our feet. Not strained, not 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 stressed, collapsing unless Parliament confronts that reality with honesty and courage. Any move toward legalizing assisted dying will not be an act of compassion, it will be an act of negligence. The Prime Minister's call to fix the care system first is not just sensible, it is the bare minimum required for moral legitimacy. Yet the urgency of his warning is being drowned out by political theatrics and public impatience. We are debating the ethics of assisted dying while ignoring the ethics of allowing people to suffer in a system that cannot meet their basic meet most their most basic needs. The system is failing and the people are paying with their suffering. Let's stop sanitizing the truth. Every day across the UK, people are dying in pain that could have been controlled. Families are breaking under the weight of caregiving they were never trained for. And clinicians are forced to choose which patient's suffering they will address first. Patient suffering will be addressed first because there simply aren't enough hands. This is not a theoretical policy problem. It is a national moral failure. When it comes to the UK, guys, this is what happens to people's end of life care. I'm giving you guys a little window into different countries on how they care for their dying folks. Give me a second here. When a dying person waits weeks for a palliative consult, that is not a scheduling issue. It is cruelly a when a person with dementia is left without adequate support. That is not a funding gap. It is abandonment. When a caregiver collapses from exhaustion because respite never came, that is not a bureaucratic oversight. It is a breach of trust. And in that landscape, the idea of assisted dying becomes wrapped or warped. It risks becoming a release valve for suffering. The state has chosen not to prevent. Autonomy cannot exist in a system that forces people into desperation. We must say this plainly. A person cannot meaningfully choose assisted dying if the alternative is unrevealed suffering. Autonomy requires options, real options, options that are accessible, affordable, and humane. Right now, too many people do not have them. If Parliament legalizes assisted dying before repairing care, it will create a system where people choose death not because they want it, but because every other path has been blocked by neglect. That is not autonomy. That is coercion by deception or deprivation. Safeguards are friction in a system that cannot deliver basic care. Assisted dying legislation depends on meticulous assessments, multidisciplinary review, and time for reflection. But clinicians in today's NHS do not have time. They are sprinting through 14-hour days, triaging suffering, and apologizing for delays they cannot control. They pretend that the same system can reliably implement the safeguards required for assisted dying is a dangerous fantasy. Safeguards are not words on paper. They are actions carried out by exhausted clinicians in a system that is already failing. If we legislate now, we will be building a high risk medical process on top of a structurally unsound foundation. The hardest truth: vulnerable people will be harmed. We must stop whispering this and say it out loud. Legalizing assisted dying before fixing care will put vulnerable people at risk. People will choose assisted dying because they cannot access symptom control. Families will feel pressured because they cannot afford care. Clinicians will be forced to make irreversible decisions without the time or resources to ensure safety. Safeguards will fail because the system implementing them is failing. This is not fear mongering, it is a description of the system we have right now. Parliament must stop looking for the easy path. Fixing the care system is not politically convenient. It requires money, workforce expansion, structural reform, and accountability. But it but is the but it is the only ethical path forward. That means workforce expansion on a scale that matches the demographic reality of an aging nation. Integrated care reform that eliminates fragmentation and forces responsibility. Dementia care investment that reflects the fastest growing clinical need in the country. Universal access to palliative care as a right, not a privilege. These are not aspirational goals, they are prerequisites for any ethical debate about assisted dying. A final word to lawmakers. If Parliament moves ahead with assisted dying legislation before repairing the care system, it will be choosing political expedience over moral responsibility. It will be signaling that the state is willing to offer a medical exit before offering the care that makes living bearable. Fix the care system first. Prove that we can support people in their final months with dignity, competence, and compassion. Only then can we debate assisted dying with integrity. Anything less would be a betrayal. Okay, guys, that is your B. I will be back on with C shortly. Give me a bit, please, and I'll be back on with that for you. For now, Gator Wellness. Take care, folks.